At my aunt's wedding, my dad's custody battle turned into a shocking showdown. Just as vows were exchanged, secrets about years of lies spilled out in front of the entire family. What should have been a celebration turned into a war of words, with hidden affairs, betrayals, and custody papers being thrown into the spotlight. I never thought I'd watch my dad's darkest battle unfold in front of everyone I loved. I never thought my aunt's wedding would turn into the backdrop of the ugliest custody battle I've ever witnessed. But then again, with my dad Alex 40 and my mum's side of the family involved, I should have expected chaos. The ceremony was set at this rustic barn venue outside town. Fairy lights strung across the rafters, the kind of Pinterest-perfect wedding you only see in magazines. Everyone was supposed to be happy, my Aunt Michelle in her lace gown, her groom beaming, champagne already on ice. Instead, the day spiraled into something I'll never forget. I was standing near the back with my younger cousin, Ethan, when I noticed my dad Stephen. He was in a dark grey suit, tie slightly crooked because he'd been too nervous to fix it properly. He kept checking his phone like he was waiting for bad news. That's when she walked in, my mum's sister, Carol, with a smug little smile. She wasn't invited, but Carol never cared about boundaries. And right behind her, my mom. My heart sank. For context, my parents split years ago and their divorce was hell. My mum accused my dad of hiding money, lying in court, and even manipulating me when I was younger. My dad fought tooth and nail for custody, and somehow he won. At least, that's what I always believed. But the moment my mom walked into that barn, everything changed. The ceremony had just started. Aunt Michelle was walking down the aisle, the music swelling, everyone turning to watch her. But I couldn't focus because I saw my mom lock eyes with my dad and it wasn't anger in her expression, it was triumph. "Alex," she said loudly, not caring that the minister had just asked everyone to rise. "Tell them the truth." People gasped. My aunt froze mid-step, clutching her bouquet like she wanted to hurl it at someone. "What are you doing here?" My dad snapped, his voice low but shaking. Carol crossed her arms. "We're here to make sure you don't keep lying to your kids or to the rest of this family." I swear you could feel the entire room tilt. The bride's side looked confused, the groom's side whispered, and my grandpa muttered, "Not today, for God's sake." My dad clenched his jaw. "This is not the time, we'll talk later." But my mom wasn't backing down. She pulled a manila envelope from her purse and held it up like it was a smoking gun. "You think you can hide this forever? You forged custody documents. You stole years from me from us." That's when my knees went weak. People started whispering louder. My aunt hissed, "Stop it, this is my wedding." But the damage was already done. And me? I just stood there, staring at my dad, wondering if everything I believed about our family had been a lie. The barn was dead silent except for the creak of the wooden floors. My dad stepped forward, his eyes locked on my mom. His voice was low, almost a growl. "Put it away, Laura. Not here." But my mom didn't move. She looked around the room, her voice sharp, cutting through the music that had already stopped. "Everyone thinks Alex is this perfect dad who fought for his kids. You all think he's the victim, but you don't know what he did to me in court. You don't know what he took." My cousin Ethan whispered, "Holy," under his breath, but nobody dared laugh. The minister just stood frozen, Bible in hand, like he had no idea whether to keep going or call security. My Aunt Michelle, the bride, was red-faced and furious. "Can someone get them RUT? This is my wedding," she yelled, but no one moved. Everyone wanted to know what my mom was holding. My dad lunged forward, trying to grab the envelope, but Carol blocked him with a smug grin, like she had been waiting her whole life for this. "Not so fast, Alex. You can't believe your way out of this one." I finally found my voice. "Dad, what is she talking about?" My voice cracked and I felt every eye in the room on me. He turned to me, his face pale. "It's not what you think. Your mother is twisting things." My mom snapped, "Twisting? You forged my signature on custody paperwork. You lied to the judge. You lied to our son. Then you let me look like a failure all these years while you played the hero." The words hit me like a punch to the chest. People gasped actual gasps, like in a movie. My grandpa slammed his cane on the ground. "Enough, this is a wedding, not a courtroom." But the shouting didn't stop. The headspass man, who'd been sitting by, stood up and muttered, "Alex, is this true?" And that silence after? It was deafening. My dad rubbed his face with his hands. "I did what I had to do to protect my kids. Laura was unstable back then. I couldn't risk losing them." "Unstable?" My mom's voice cracked. "You mean broke? I was broke because you drained every account we had, and then you painted me as crazy in front of the court, and now you're about to stand here and smile for wedding photos like none of it ever happened." My aunt dropped her bouquet on the floor. "Are you seriously hijacking my wedding with your drama? You people are insane." But no one was listening to her anymore. The whole room was a circus now, relatives whispering, the groom's family looking horrified, kids starting to cry. And me, standing there realizing the life I thought I knew was built on lies. Then my mom pulled out a photocopy from the envelope and waved it in the air. "Here's the proof. The signature isn't mine. He tricked the court and took everything from me, and now everyone will finally know who Alex really is." I'll never forget the look on my dad's face. A mix of rage, shame, and fear. And that's when the groom finally shouted, "For F***'s sake, security, get them OUT before this wedding turns into a Jerry Springer episode." But it was too late. The truth was already out. By now, the barn was a battlefield. The music had stopped completely, and instead, the air was thick with shouting, accusations, and the smell of spilled champagne. Guests were frozen in shock or whispering furiously. A few brave souls tried to intervene, but it was like stepping into a storm. You couldn't stop it. My Aunt Michelle was livid. She stomped toward the centre, pointing her finger at both of my parents. "I don't care whose custody battle this is my wedding. If you don't leave now, I'm cancelling everything right now." Dad ran a hand down his face, exasperated. "Michelle, listen, this isn't how I wanted it to happen." "You didn't want it to happen. You dragged your personal war into my celebration," she shot back, her voice trembling with fury. Carol, meanwhile, was smirking. "It looks like the cat's out of the bag. People deserve to know. Alex, you can't hide your lies anymore." I glanced around. My cousins were whispering, friends were gawking, and the groom's mother had her hands over her mouth, eyes wide. I could feel the tension curling around my chest like a vice. My mom, still holding that envelope, took a step closer to my dad. Do you really expect me to let this go, after everything you've done? I'm not the villain here. Alex, you are. You manipulated the court, twisted the truth, and acted like a saint to everyone else. It's over. People need to see who you really are. Dad's jaw tightened, and for a second, I thought he might snap. But then he did something I didn't expect. He turned to the guests. His voice shook, but there was an edge of honesty I hadn't heard in years. Everyone, you think you know me. You think you know what's happened between Laura and me. But it's complicated. It's messy. I never wanted to drag this into a wedding, but some things had to be protected. My kids are everything to me. I felt my stomach churn. He was telling part of the truth, but not all of it. I glanced at my mom, who glared like she was ready to explode. Ethan whispered again, "This is insane. Are we really watching a custody war at a wedding?" Tension was unbearable, like waiting for a storm to hit. Then Carol took another step forward, raising her voice so it carried over the crowd. "You lied for years, Alex, and now your kids deserve the truth." My dad's shoulder slumped, and for the first time, I saw vulnerability behind his anger. He looked at me and Ethan, eyes pleading. I only did what I thought was right, but maybe I went too far. At that moment, the photographer, clearly terrified, said something that made everyone blink. Maybe we should pause. Take a break before this escalates. No one moved. No one could. The lies, the betrayal, the secrets they were all spelling out, and the barn had transformed into a courtroom of its own, with my family as jury, witness, and victim all at once. And me? I realized I wasn't just watching my parents fight, I was watching the foundation of everything I thought I knew crumble. Tension in the barn was unbearable, thick enough to taste. Guests were frozen like statues, some clutching their drinks, others covering their mouths in disbelief. My Aunt Michelle had retreated behind a chair, shaking her head like she wanted to vanish from this nightmare. Mom stepped closer to Dad, slamming the envelope down on the table with a loud thunk. Papers scattered, fluttering like desperate birds across the floor. "Do you see this, Alex? This is the truth. The custody papers you forged, the lies you told the court. You played the perfect dad for years, but behind closed doors, you ruined my life." Dad's face turned red, veins popping at his temples. "That's not true. You're twisting everything. You had your chance to be part of their lives, Laura, and you chose trauma over stability." "Bro," Mom screamed. "Me from seeing them. You told the judge I was unstable when I wasn't. And all these years, you pretended to be the hero while I begged to be heard." Carol, smug as ever, added fuel to the fire. "And don't forget the emails, Alex, the ones where you admitted you manipulated every hearing. You lied to everyone, and now it's coming out." My stomach dropped. Emails. That meant proof. Every whispered accusation I'd heard growing up might not have been lies. I felt a cold weight settle on my chest. Ethan grabbed my arm. "Are we really going to see Dad humiliated in front of everyone?" he muttered. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I was frozen watching my father, my rock, my protector crumble in front of my eyes. His suit jacket was wrinkled, head disheveled, and his voice, normally steady, cracked with desperation. I did what I had to do to protect them, to protect you all from chaos," he shouted, gesturing wildly. "I never meant to hurt anyone." "Protect us?" I finally blurted out, anger lancing through me. "By lying to the court, by lying to us, by turning our lives into your chess game, that's protection." The barn went silent again. Even my Aunt Michelle stopped pacing, staring at me. Mom's eyes softened slightly as she looked at me, but her anger didn't waver. And then it happened. Carol pulled a small envelope from her purse and waved it in Dad's face. "Oh, and this. Proof you tried to hide money in offshore accounts while claiming you couldn't afford child support. Care to explain that?" Dad froze. His jaw clenched. For the first time, he didn't have an answer. Not a quick lie, not a deflection. Just silence. I could see the colour drain from his face as realization hit. Years of lies, manipulation, and pretending to be the perfect parent were crumbling in minutes. The room smelled like spilled champagne and betrayal. Michelle finally exploded. "That's it, everyone out. This wedding is officially cancelled. Security." Guests scrambled, murmuring and shuffling toward the exits. My mom glared at Dad one last time. "This isn't over, Alex. You'll answer for everything, and this time, there's no pretending." Dad stood alone in the centre of the barn, the echo of the chaos bouncing off the wooden beams. For the first time, I saw the man behind the mask, the father I thought I knew, stripped of his carefully curated image. I didn't know what would happen next, but I knew one thing: nothing in our family would ever be the same. After the wedding erupted into chaos, the barn was nearly empty. Most guests had shuffled out, murmuring about the crazy family drama they'd just witnessed. Aunt Michelle had retreated to a quiet corner, crying softly, while the groom paced back and forth, muttering about ruined memories and cancelled plans. I stayed behind with Ethan, trying to process what had just happened. My mom was outside, still holding the envelope, and Dad leaned against a wall, shoulders slumped, staring at the floor. For a moment, the world felt suspended, like we were the only ones left, and the lies had finally peeled back to reveal the raw truth underneath. Mom turned to me, her eyes weary but determined. "You deserve to know everything. Alex, I've kept quiet because I wanted to protect you. But it's time you see the real story." Dad scoffed, but it had no bite. "There's nothing you can tell him that he hasn't already figured out," he muttered, voice hollow. I swallowed hard, unsure whether to feel angry or sad. "Dad, why? Why would you do all this? Why lie to everyone and to me?" He ran a hand over his face, exhausted. "I thought I was doing the right thing. Every time I went to court, I thought about you and Ethan. I didn't want you caught in a battle between me and your mother. I wanted stability. I wanted control. I thought that would make everything better." Mom shook her head slowly. "Control isn't protection. Alex, you tried to erase me from your kids' lives. You told lies to the court, and now you've destroyed trust, and not just with me, but with everyone who believed in you." Carol piped in from the doorway, still smug. "He's a manipulator, and now it's all out. Everyone's going to see him for what he really is. No more illusions. No more pretending." I felt a strange mix of emotions: betrayal, confusion, and an odd relief. The lies we'd all been dancing around for years were finally visible, and for the first time, the air felt honest, even if it was painful. Ethan whispered, "I can't believe all this was hidden all this time." I nodded, trying to wrap my mind around it. I know I thought Dad was a hero. Turns out he's human, messy, broken, but human. Dad looked up at me then, eyes rimmed with red. I never wanted to hurt you, Alex. I really didn't. I wanted to be the father you deserved. I know, I said, voice trembling. But you need to accept that what you did wasn't okay, and Mom, she needs to have a voice now. Mom's lips trembled, a mix of anger and relief. It's time we rebuild, Alex, and maybe one day we can try to be a family again, honestly this time. For the first time in years, I felt a strange glimmer of hope. It wouldn't be easy. There would be court hearings, angry phone calls, and probably more drama than I could handle. But at least the lies were out in the open. Dad nodded slowly. I'll try. I promise I'll try. We stood there in the quiet aftermath, surrounded by scattered champagne fleets, rip-up wedding programs, and the ghosts of a celebration that had gone horribly wrong. And for the first time, I realized that facing the truth, no matter how painful, might be the only way forward for all of us. The day after the wedding, the fallout was everywhere. Relatives were whispering behind closed doors, friends sent awkward texts, and social media was buzzing with half-truths about that crazy family wedding. Dad's phone wouldn't stop ringing, and for once, he didn't answer. Mom called me first thing in the morning. Alex, we need to talk about the custody papers, the ones he forged. Her voice was steady, but I could hear the exhaustion underneath. I met her at a small cafe near town, Ethan trailing behind me. Dad hadn't yet called, and for the first time, I felt like I was caught between the two of them, forced to witness the real damage. Mom slid a folder across the table. These emails, these documents, they're proof. He manipulated court dates, forged signatures, and even hid accounts. This isn't about revenge, it's about what's right. I flipped through the papers. Each one was a dagger to the heart, evidence of years of lies and manipulation. My stomach churned, but part of me felt relieved that the truth was finally tangible. Ethan whispered, "Wow, this is worse than I imagined." Mom shot him a quick glare. "Yes, it is, and it's time we face it." Later that afternoon, I confronted Dad. He was in the garage, staring at his hands, the silence heavy between us. "I know Mom's showing you all that stuff," he said quietly. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to understand why I did it." "Understand?" I repeated, voice tight. "Dad, you lied for years. You turned our lives upside down. Do you have any idea how that feels?" He swallowed hard. "I was scared. I thought if you kids didn't see the chaos, you'd be okay. I wanted to protect you. I wanted stability. But I see now it just hurt everyone instead." I ran a hand through my hair. "You can't fix it by apologizing, Dad. You need to face Mom, face the court, face the family." He nodded slowly, the weight of reality settling in. "I will, I promise. I didn't think it would blow up like it did at the wedding. I never wanted that." Meanwhile, Carol wasn't going to let this die quietly. She'd been quietly rallying relatives behind the scenes, forwarding emails and evidence to anyone willing to listen. Alliances were forming. Some relatives supported Mom, others Dad. But the fractures were visible, cousins choosing sides, aunts whispering, friends shaking their heads. By evening, the first official court notice arrived for a review of the custody agreement. Dad opened it, hands trembling slightly. "So it begins," he muttered. I looked at him, realizing that this was bigger than any wedding, any fight, or any personal grudge. This was about years of hidden truths finally surfacing, and the consequences would ripple through our entire family. Mom sent a final message that night: "No more hiding, no more lies. It's time we face everything together or apart." And in that moment, I understood nothing would ever be the same. The custody battle was officially in motion, and every secret that had been buried for years was now exposed, waiting to tear the family apart for, somehow, force us to rebuild. The day of the court hearing arrived faster than I expected. Dad, Mom, and I sat in the sterile, intimidating courtroom, papers piled high on the judge's bench. I could feel every heartbeat, every whispered glance, every tension, filled sighs if it were mine. The wedding chaos had been a prelude, but this was the real battleground. Mom's attorney began presenting evidence, emails, forged signatures, hidden accounts. Dad's attorney tried to deflect, to frame his actions as protective parenting, but the weight of the proof was undeniable. Even I, trying to stay neutral, couldn't ignore the mountain of lies that had been stacked over years. At one point, Dad turned to me. His eyes were raw, pleading. "I did it for you, Alex. I thought I was protecting you and Ethan." I swallowed hard, my throat tight. Protecting us by lying, by hiding Mom, by manipulating everyone. Dad, that's not protection, that's control. Mom looked at me then, a mixture of relief and sadness. "I just want him to be honest now, for you kids, that's all I've ever wanted." As the judge examined the documents, reading aloud some of the most damning evidence, Dad's face fell. He didn't argue, the truth was laid bare for everyone. I could see him internally reckoning with years of deception, a man stripped of his carefully maintained image. Then came the emotional climax. Mom spoke directly to Dad, her voice shaking but firm. "Alex, I know you loved us in your way, but love doesn't mean lying, love doesn't mean hiding. It's time to accept responsibility for the choices you made, and maybe, just maybe, we can start rebuilding the trust you destroyed." Dad's hands trembled as he reached for mine. I understand, I can't change the past, but I want to try to be better, if you'll let me." I hesitated, the anger, the betrayal, and the lingering love for my father all colliding inside me. Slowly, I nodded. "You'll have to earn it, Dad. Every single day." The judge, sensing the sincerity, nodded and reminded us that custody arrangements would be revisited, but also emphasized the importance of honesty and co-parenting moving forward. It wasn't a resolution, but it was a step toward rebuilding the fractured family. As we left the courthouse, Dad put an arm around my shoulder. Mom trailed behind, holding Ethan's hand, her expression softer now. The tension hadn't vanished, and there were still difficult conversations ahead, but the veil of lies that had haunted us for years was finally lifted. Later that evening, back at home, I reflected on everything. The wedding had been a disaster, a public unmasking of years of deception. But the fallout, painful as it was, forced us to confront the truth. And in that truth, there was hope, messy, fragile, but real. For the first time in years, I saw a path forward. Not perfect, not easy, but honest. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough to start rebuilding what had been broken.